the work that we've been charged to do. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you, for continuing to be engaged in this work, even in very difficult times. This year has been a tough year, kind of at every level. But I want to say that we also see, but what gives me hope is the stuff we saw happening at the agency. Trista and Shalane really providing leadership for OIJ and pulling off two significant, well, the conference, the healing conference, where they forced us to sit there, and listen to young people. I thought it was amazing. And then Ajiza and her team at YJI, who I consider part of the team too, they pulled it out of a hat in record time, but they had this symposium thing that I had two laptops on that day because I had it was a really important meeting, which you'll hear more about in here about juvenile sex offenders. I had that meeting going on, and then I had the conference live streaming, and it was amazing content, right? So we know the audience, we have experts on the audience, and we know the issues, and we're just going to move, toward action as much as possible, and kind of let everybody else do what they do. But both those conferences and the work of OYJ this year have focused on empowering young people and forcing the rest of us to listen. And I think that's the right place to be. So, whatever. But I want to say that all year long, I said, well, we can get through 4 years of this, but we haven't even been through 1 year of this. So I know it's hard, but I hope that at least in this body and with this agency that you have access to people who understand the challenge, who share the pain, but, we keep moving forward. We try to keep moving forward, try to fill in the gaps. And I would say, one thing that really doesn't have anything to do with JJAG, but I'll bring it up, we'll do a briefing at a future moment, but, there is a movement in the state to undo raise the age. And we have to remain, vigilant and steadfast. It's purely political. It has nothing to do with fact, but there's going to be, some intense activity around that next year. That's really political. But for me, it's about the kids. And so I want to make sure we continue to give you the information we have about the wars that are happening, but we have, we use the same verbiage, and I am adamant. The breakfast yesterday, it was a little loud, but I was like, that is not undoable. Let's fix whatever the problems are and have not do that. So, when people try to undo those things, they're coming. In my view, they're coming for our children. I didn't come here to allow that to happen. So I want you to know that we remain steadfast, even though sometimes we're tired and we're exhausted and we may have no money, we're still going to continue to do the work and to figure out the ways, through your networks to let the young people know that we're here, that we're doing that, that we're doing it for them and that they have a safety. So that's all I wanted to say today. I could go on, but I really appreciate what it takes for you to be here today and for you to stay on with JJAG. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I want to echo your point around the importance of staying steadfast in the value of children and the value of children continuing to have promise. And so as children mature into youth, into that whatever engagement they have, with whatever means that there's still a promise for them in terms of the future. I appreciate your answers. I think that's it's uncertain whether or not that's a value that is necessarily sort of attempted to. I have just two items I kind of wanted to share as chair. In working with the CJS team, I want to kind of give you all updates. One is around travel. One of the practices that exists within DCJS is the submission of travel reimbursement within a timely fashion. And if I remember correctly, it's within 10 days. Remember. So I want to encourage us as JAG members to make sure to submit your travel reimbursements within 10 days. That's it. Nothing else to it's just 10 days. The other point is around conferences, right? Two things. One is like we really want to encourage folks uh, to consider the potential opportunities in our conferences that are related to our JAG work, particularly national conferences that where presentation is always desired. And I know some of our JAG members have been able to go. I mean, Michelle has been able to go to several conferences and Jason. And so we want to encourage conference participation as best fitted for your schedule. The other part around the conferences is also making sure that we have an equitable distribution of folks being able to go. So we are looking at sort of establishing sort of a total number of conferences that the JAG can sponsor individuals to go to from JAG per year. So that way we can make sure that when the opportunities do arise, that there is opportunities for a variety of JAG. So those are the two updates I wanted to make sure I shared that. You want they're just more logistics. Right. Any questions? So item number 4, we are not doing, which actually is, it works out because we did get some comments, some edits that we had to make on the annual report anyway. So it will be tabled for the December. And with that, we're going to move to new business, ongoing business. Yeah. So we're going to start with our federal funding status updates. Morris will do it? Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the time to speak and talk about our federal balances and what's going on with all of that. Well, there's a lot going on in the federal world right now, but so this is that blue, the chart in your market that has all the numbers on it. So just as an update, 2018 and 2019 and 2020 all slaps yesterday. And the balances didn't change much on 18 and 19. We don't know the final balances yet because the vouchers aren't into us yet, so we don't know the full final spending on those 2 awards. We'll may know that by the December meeting. If you'll notice that the 2021 award, the balance went up a little bit. One of our admin grants turned back their $50,000 award. They thought they couldn't spend it all by 9/30. But there'll probably be some other underspending on some of those awards too, 20. But just as an FYI, we decided to go for it and ask for an extension on 2020. It'll be our second extension, which is not as guaranteed as our first extension. But I'd like to introduce Ian Grugan, who's our new grade 23. He worked with the feds for a little bit, so he has a wealth of knowledge on the inner workings on extensions and applications, and it's going to be a big help to us. So he's the one who actually suggested that it couldn't hurt to ask for a second extension in 20. So he was working with our rep, even yesterday, and submitted it. So we don't know if it was approved because the government took down this night, but so we'll proceed like it lasts on 9/30, but there's a chance we may still have some. We'll let you all know that. We did get the extension in FY21, so that doesn't lapse until next year now. Some other, I don't know if I spoke about this in June, but the balances also went up a little bit because at DCJS, our state funding has increased so much that our federal effort has gone down in terms of our administrative spending. So we're not spending as much on our administrative funds on the staff, like myself, even in OYJ. Your effort towards this federal funding has gone down a lot. So we actually did an amendment with the feds to take away the admin portion of it. Like you don't need those admin funds anymore, which gives us more money to program. So we think that's a benefit to the state, for sure. So that's just why the balance is estimated. And we have to look at our spending on our admin balances on 21 and 22. So that we work with them. And the JJAG spending is actually down a lot too. When you talked about conferences, that'd be a great way to invest in the JJAG money that we have set as well.
I do. I'm sorry. It was a little bit too fast for me, so can I ask you next time to just go a little bit to take it all in?
Sure.
So I know you mentioned that the time lapse for 2018, 2019. And I know you said that that was as of yesterday, but I still would like to know how much funding we have to turn back. Even if you don't have the final amount today, what was the last time you checked? I think it would be great for us to know. And then I see in the chart that there's two FY 2020. Can you explain why there's two?
Yeah, so when we first applied for 2020, we were not in compliance with our SAG membership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a compliance issue too on the SEO side, but it was mainly our SAG membership wasn't, you're supposed to have a certain number of,
And
representatives from
yeah,
different
there
areas
was
of
the
the state.
reauthorization, there was 3 purpose areas that were added, and we hadn't met that just yet because some of them was pending.
Yeah, no, because they took us off the state so long.
And then
So,
they were appointed, and then,
yeah. So the feds gave us a 5% award, to let us like keep doing the JAG work.
Oh,
And then when we get into compliance, or they actually lessened the requirements, then we applied for the 20. For some reason, the feds, they kept those as 2 separate awards.
what about the amount that we send back, even if it's an estimate?
What you see there is the estimate of what, the current balances of what we plan on turning back right now.
I think the only thing to add to that would be that even though the performance period ended yesterday, the entities that we made a have like basically the next month and a half or so.
Yeah.
So that number is what we know now, but it will definitely change. And it will probably go up a bit because until we see what they submit, probably based on what those will be. Yeah.
I know this is not kind of like a question to you. I think this is an open question to CJS as a whole, but great that we asked for the second extension. We might have some funds. We still have funding that we haven't from 2021. What are we doing? What have we talked about? How we're gonna spend down this money?
Right, I would think that'd be something you would talk about in the executive meeting.
Yeah, so in terms of, you mean in terms of 21 or the?
Just like as a whole, what system are we building to make sure that we don't have to turn down money?
So part of what we're going to be doing is, and this is, as when we get to our project updates in terms of the hubs, right?
Okay.
Like there's some stuff I want to put out there
Okay.
for us to start thinking about setting ourselves up so we have a lot fewer trips.
Okay.
So it's,
Thank you.
Right.
so, and I think if I could just add that, that youth, development RFA that will be coming out that has sort of those 3 buckets, that was kind of thinking around getting proactively ahead some of this as well. The hubs are also going to be some of this funding.
Okay.
Didn't we also talk about, reissuing mini grants because it was so successful?
That will go out in that larger 3-tiered RFA that we discussed in June.
Thank you. What are we thinking of doing then? It was hard to us with what's happening, but
in terms of, the status of the RFA.
yeah, and I mean, and I think that I don't want to jump to.
I think we're jumping.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'm jumping, my bad.
So
I mean, I think we had anticipated we couldn't make that live until we received our 25 awards.
Right, and the 25 application would normally have been released and they did not release the FY 25 Title II application. And we were told, that it would come out later this year. So it did release a bunch of discretionary federal funding applications recently. But those applications all did complete as a very similar language.
I think we should.
So I'm not sure why Title II is not coming out. It's, and now we'll check that out. Which predict what's going to happen with FY 25 award. So we may have to regroup and think about what we're going to do with the analysis.
The good thing is with federal awards in the past, when there's been delays like this, usually we get to use that as an excuse to extend. That is really well received. So hopefully, long term it won't hurt us, but short term it does because we're not able to push forward procurements through OIC unless we have an award that we can point to that we can use. So we're kind of in a bit of a waiting pattern because we don't know what the feds are going to do.
unfortunately, and unfortunately, we've been through this before, right? In terms of having to sort of wait until there is a award. But then it resulted to this massive amounts of dollars that we to really, and that's why in some ways that us to, when we talk through project updates, what's the ahead plan that we should do such that we're able to really maximize those funds we need to eventually get released.
I have a question, and I'll be honest, I don't know if this is the right time to ask, but I'm gonna ask it. I'll see it as a professional development for my own. I hope that's okay. Is it normal for us to vote on things when we haven't even know the amount of what we're getting? And I think of that, because I'll tell you this, I did feel weird last time when we were in the meeting, we voted on, moving forward this, 1.2 million, 750,000 for mini grants. And I was like, well, we still don't even know the amount, if we're getting, if they're gonna open it, if our funds are gonna be freezing. And the JAC as a body is already making decisions about it. Just wanted to ask, is that normal? This is my first time experiencing, and I've been here, I think, 9 years.
So part of it is, yeah, well, part of it, what we wanted to make sure is that we had set ourselves up as a JAG to have, to start stipulating allocations based on a strategic plan. Right?
Okay.
We knew, so we had success points around mini grants. We knew we wanted to do the user advisory group and forget the third component. And at the same time, knowing that there is, and this is in June. So based on prior history, assuming the Title II application would have come out, right? That was also what was happening. We're like, oh, it's gonna come out.
Mhm.
Now it's October 1,
Mm,
and it hasn't.
okay.
Right? And to, your point, I think Maura, you made this around, that there's those discretionary applications that are out and that do have that sanctuary city language account, right? That is now, so that adds a little bit in terms of if it does come out, if and when it does come out. Would that language be in there as well? What are the implications for New York, especially because we've been through this?
Yeah.
Right. I don't believe any of the formula awards, like Burn Jag is another formula award that we did. And that one hasn't. I think there might be speculating, there might be, fighting at the federal level whether to add this resolution. They can do it on the discretionary, obviously.
Can, I don't know what's the reporting requirement, after, the CGA gives funding out, and, we're talking about the success of I remember what was the success was the outreach and the door opening for organizations that have never been able to tap into government funding to be able to be part of this. That is one success, but I've been wondering a lot about what is the actual success as a whole, because, like we just, you were reporting one person said, I'm giving you back again the full 50,000 because I couldn't spend it. I couldn't even tap in. So now that I'm thinking of that, what is the actual successes? And I'm saying it to say, because I've been fundraising for the last 3 years, meeting with, working in philanthropy, and that is one of their biggest issues as well. And maybe I'm just thinking out loud, and I'm sorry if I'm going off topic. It would be great for us to set up something where we do have like a TA support to the mini grants to support them. How do you tap in? What do you do? What is the execution, the strategy of it? Because, I used to manage the OGDP TA award across the country, and that was one of the biggest things. And the reality is that organizations, nonprofit, don't have the capacity to do what they promised they said they would do. And because, I've been thinking a lot about this. What is the actual money back that we get that this 10 organizations through the mini grants didn't spend? So how do we set them up for success? The outreach was a success. How do we actually put them in a success path?
Well, that's actually some of the stuff that I'm covering with the update.
That was part of the annual reporting also.
Right, that we.
How to determine the successes and the percentages
Exactly.
that would qualify as success.
Yeah, exactly. And that's because this is all new for us, right? To do
Yeah.
not only the mini grants, but
Yeah.
to also get that, it's so much response from across the state. And now, right? So we have, White Facts is one element of the TA, but I also hearing the programmatic part of it,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why for project updates, I want to sort of to have a discussion where we start setting up so that we're ready to do that. You know, especially, this part of the reason also we needed to pass, to approve it in June was because the procurement process that transpires, we've experienced it, it takes a while.
Mhm.
So to kind of get that ahead allows us that once the award happens,
Thank you.
it can hit the ground or hit the.
Yep, thank you.
Right? Exactly. So yes, but thank you. So what we're gonna cover, so a lot of that stuff.
Thank you.
When we do project updates. Other questions around the, our grant summary? Well, thank you, Mara. Thank you, Phil, for giving us ongoing realities on this. And we know it's not you. All right, the federal awards audit. Is Nora, is that you?
Oh, right. I'm like, I'm done now. Yes, we just went through, the OCFO, which I don't even know. What it stands for. The Office of
Chief Financial Officer.
Yep, so we had a federal site visit back in April, which we told you about, and they came back with, glowing review. But the OCFO, is auditing about 15 of our federal grants, and Title II was part of that. So we kind of went through almost the same kind of, if they did make us say this is not an audit, even though
It's totally not.
So far that went fine. We didn't have any findings so far. I don't believe have a final report of any of those yet.
Yeah, I think worst case scenario, we might see some recommendations about that. Sometimes OCFO will recommend different processes, but it's really concentrating on the financial aspects of the award, like, our reporting, our entering items in the federal system, it's like basically we could look at like the outspoken book when you miss the sum of awards made for over $30,000, or like our procedures for drawing down the federal funds. I know we say turn back, but we really don't get the money. It's like we get to draw it down as we use it, and turn back is the thing, obviously, because we have to report that we don't use. But so I wouldn't be surprised if they have some recommendations in that regard. But looking key, I think we've done pretty well. So.
Yep, they also looked at our delinquency prevention award, which is a prescription award, but it's also unfortunately. Yeah, so that it went well. It was a lot of work, especially at the end of the final fiscal year, because we're scrambling with all the grantees. We have grants that we did yesterday, so we're doing a lot of amendments. Calling up the grantees, so it was kind of crazy couple of weeks. But, and I would say the federal employees do some low stress. Yeah.
Any questions around the audit? Yeah. All right, so now we're gonna move to some project updates. We're gonna start with the hubs and then we're gonna move on to talk about the Youth Justice Summit and the WiFAX Data Center. But I wanted to set up this conversation by stipulating there's great things that we have learned over the past year, I think, in terms of what we have pursued in funding, right? So the first one being around the mini grant. Response that we got was just astronomical. And actually, it reminded us that there are agencies that are out there that are doing good stuff that needs seed money, right? And for them to go to the next level and continue to do this work. And so which is why we kind of set ourselves up to go, let's get more mini grants clear. And also recognizing that there has to be support that exists for the various mini grants. Remember in our June meeting, there was a great deal of conversation around the potential what do we do with those mini grantees who didn't get to? How do we support them? How do we set them up so they're ready, right? And so, and I say all that because part of what I must be attentive to over this coming year is how do we leverage these strategies that we are putting money towards to potentially expand, right? Given some of the set of dollars that we have allocated, I want us to consider the potential of expansion. This work, the mini grants work, the hubs work, and as well as the Youth Justice Summit and the work that we anticipate that the Youth Advisory Group would do. So all that to say is that we have good stuff that's already in play that I think gives us a good springboard of areas that we can kind of concentrate more dollars on in the upcoming years. And so some of that I'm gonna, ask us to consider. And one of the things I've sort of been talking with Trista about is our mini grantees to point around success. Part of getting to the success part is just asking the mini grantee, how did it go? Right. So we're gonna sort of identify some mini grantees to potentially present to us in December in terms of how that process was for them. What did they learn? What could we do better? Right? Because especially if we're going to pursue this even further, given the fact that there's a need that's existing now across the state. So that's some of what I want to kind of set up in this conversation on project updates, that this is really good stuff. But I want us to see our creative side to be thinking, what are the points of expansion? So with that, turn it to Trista to talk about house.
Sure, yeah, so, and OPS gonna tag in, and not my own, too much. No, so overwhelming response to the Hubs RFA. I think we received 30 applications for the Hubs RFA, I think 27 cleared tier 1 review. And then we had a review team comprised of folks from the YJI, the Office of Youth Justice, and OPF. To review the remaining 27 applications, which were hundreds of pages long.
Four hubs.
So thank you to everyone who read all of those.
And all geographic areas were represented in those 27?
Not all,
Of
but
the 4 hubs, there were submissions for each of the 4.
there was submission for 2. Yes, we have enough submissions for urban and so of that, within our review, we have, based upon the scoring, there's been 4 hubs that have been identified. We have submitted our procurement to the Office of State Comptroller, going to see around those. They have to approve that process. And we are able to say that based upon the scoring, there's a great opportunity here because we have our top 2 scoring hubs being in New York City, one in the Bronx and one in Brooklyn. It's an opportunity for the JAG to expand their footprint into New York City, which is something the JAG has been wanting to do for a while. And then the other 2 rural hubs, I don't know, I'll look like and say just because so I think we have one in Monroe County and one in Wayne.
I think that's it. The only reason our procurement's a little tricky, so that's why we're waiting for that to get approved by OSC. It's before we make the award. There's a chance that OSC may not approve it, but we have a strong enough justification, but we just don't understand.
The reason why there was 2 New York City programs at 4 and 5 that were in the exact same area. And so our argument to OSC is that it doesn't make any sense to have 2 programs having completely duplicate functions in the same area. I'm confident they'll get approved, but it's just sometimes we have to justify why we're making that decision so we can show that it's fair but obviously we feel strongly that it is. But it doesn't make sense for states to invest money twice in the same area with feasibly conflicting messages or activities.
Especially for this type of work that we're doing, it's supposed to be coordinating.
Questions around the hubs? And for me, what stood out was just the fact that there were so many applicants for these hubs across the state. And I believe, when I was sort of generally briefed around when you were asking a question around representation, there was such great representation across the state. Because my concern is always rural areas being represented because of what it takes to put something together like this. The set of resources available is very different in rural moves than urban settings. So I was pleasantly surprised. 30 was a great representation. But now it's the hard part. Getting to 4 But I want us to see this as the potential of, well, how can we do for our next set of that we start putting together in terms of proposing some new areas or new funding is the hubs being one area for us to consider beyond the four. Well, once we get through these four, to being notified and getting off the ground, getting the supports that we need, is for us as a JAC to actually to potential pursuing additional hubs. To go for us. So any questions, thoughts, reactions around
Are you able to share what their plans are?
I think what's looking from a different perspective, only because let's say OSE is back on the Jeff side, but we have to make sure that it's still kind of a closed process in terms of approved. So I think the second it's approved, we can share any information with the. Hopefully that's possible, but that could be something for the days or so, so we're not, hopefully it's something that we can share a lot more soon.
And also just mention the YJI members were also.
any questions around hubs? I also want to echo the thank you for the teams that reviewed. I know this was not, I heard stories around having to review hundreds of pages of stuff, which, you know, folks poured their heart and soul in terms of writing. And definitely appreciate some of the teams that actually got together here to be very judicious. With that, we're going to move to our next project update item, which is Jesus is going to walk us through an update on the Youth Justice Summit, and as well as results which is the World Wide Facts Data Center discussion. Yeah. And with that, and Alicia. Okay. But team. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you also for you all to kind of share updates. And again, the same framing of where are the potentials that we are seeing in terms of expanding. So that.
All right, team, we're moseying over to the front here. This is always awkward because I don't know if I'm giving my back to somebody or standing in front of a PowerPoint, so please let us know if we can do anything better. Now, Tristan sets us up for pictures, so. Coming over. Do you need?
I think you're, I think you're on your, sorry,
What do we have?
the slides.
Oh, that is important.
Sorry.
Do we have a clicker?
Yes.
At least are you clicking? I can flip it. We would like you to.
Flip the clicker. Let's change the slide. Do you have the, it's right here. Already in. I do.
Do you want to share?
Okay.
I wouldn't believe this.
My
I'm projecting my own.
30 plus me is there as I play adult sports. Thank you. This one, yes.
The video is there if buffering. So while we get set up, if I may, Eddie, just contribute a perspective from the YJI regarding the hubs. I think that one of the coolest things about this proposal was it was so broad, right? What is a hub? There have been many conversations, but that allowed for such creativity in the proposals that I think it's something that should be centered and celebrated. There were guidelines, but people really brought new ideas to the table through the way that the proposal was written. All right, Trista, are we ready? Yes. Thank you. So let me reintroduce myself. I'm Giza Lopez, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Youth Justice Institute. It is my pleasure to be sharing the stage with the amazing YJI team. And here today we have Carla Karina, Ramit Taylor, and Alicia May. And we'll all play a part in talking to you, so you will not be hearing from me for long. I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to the JJAG. Thank you to the CJS. And to each of you JJAG members individually for the opportunity to share with you what I think are exciting highlights from the summit, as well as updates on the YFACs. We clicked. Okay. So in YJI style, we always like to give an overview of what we're hoping to cover today. So the first thing is sharing these highlights from the summit. There is a movie. Then we're going to build on that and have a facilitated discussion around the 10 takeaways that came out of the summit and close our presentation with highlights from YFAC's activities that we have been and what the road ahead looks like to the extent that we can see it. So as we talk about the defining the path forward, and the commissioner has reminded me of how important this title is, and today especially, I think we stand at the crossroads, and defining the path forward is an opportunity. And the summit was to start with that. I want to take a moment and recap, because we've lived the summit, but I am sure this is distant in your memory, perhaps in you. The impetus for the summit really was the fiscal pressure to spend money that would otherwise have been turned back. So I want to start by saying that we had 10 months to plan, recruit, and deliver on this. And this put a lot of pressure on the team, and I want to acknowledge that. So thank you, team. But it was an opportunity, and I am happy to share with you that we're turning back, give or take, $50. We worked that magic. But out of this fiscal pressure, really what I want to center was the opportunity. And it's kind of like you had to be there, but not really, because we're going to share the highlights in the video. But the main takeaway from me in this space of youth justice as a leader in this space was the positivity and centering the conversations around possibility. So very much in line with what you were saying, Eddie, you felt it in the room. And I feel it's important for us to say here, because we put so much emphasis on the content of the training and are people taking away the morale boost that these events have on folks that are actually able to do something about it was tangible in that room and continued. So we'll share some of that with you as well. So some numbers with a bird's eye view of who attended the summit. You may remember this was supposed to be a shindig for 30 people. We ended up with 153 participants. Don't ask me how it happened, but it happened. They represented multiple perspectives from cross-sector industries in our field, as well as backgrounds of expertise. They came from over 40 organizations from all over New York State and beyond. 44 of these individuals were what we're calling youth leaders, folks between 17 and 25 that were there participating in all 3 days and evenings, trainings and so on. I want to highlight that 8 of these young leaders were college students that you, through your generous funding, supported in terms of summer stipends at the YJI, and 3 of them remain with us since. And finally, this is something that was really centered in the summit that I feel, should echo at every opportunity. We engaged what we called in the summit the justice partners. These are family members, mentors, and other trusted adults that the youth leaders indicated they wanted to bring with them. And we were reminded of the impact that having their family members to support them beyond the summit is really important. And sometimes we over focus on the young people and we forget this network that is there to support them. What did I forget? I knew I would forget. So yes, we had a plan. 10 weeks was crazy and it was a lot of travel. So shout out to the people at the YJI that organized travel for 65 individuals and the reimbursement that ensued for 35 folks who were eligible for it. What was it? Yes, it was. Thank you. All right, so before we leave you with the video, we want to talk a little bit about the context of what happened in the summit, and many of you were there, as well as the impact that has ensued. So what happened? We had 3 full days in partnership with many organizations and partners, including Canary Impact, Youth FX, and others, which allowed us to have the success that we had. Day 1, we started with a reception. It was really a landing space for folks who were coming from out of town, but we decided to put everybody to work in getting comfortable with being uncomfortable in the space. And we had a facilitated art activity that we heard after the fact really helped set the mood and the collaborative spirit for the summit from that day and onwards. Now I'm going to cede the space to Alicia May, who will walk us through day 2.
Yeah, so day 2 was a very full day of summit activities. We started with a charge to the field and aspiring a path forward with a hopeful tone. A shout out to Precious for joining us for that session. And we moved from that to a participatory call to action session, which was comprised of short presentations, followed by an interspersed with facilitated dialogue to elevate urgent items that were actionable from all of the people in the room. And a reminder, the people in the room were these youth leaders, were these justice partners, policymakers, practitioners, artists, etc. So these were the collective that were elevated. We followed that with our YFAX launch, more from Carla on that in a moment here, followed by our inaugural training of the Coming Full Circle, which is a 360-degree policy or 360-degree presentation taking a social issue from different perspectives of policy, practice, research, and lived experience. We concluded the day with a wrap-up, followed by a reception, and that enabled space for continued conversations and networking that was really important to have in that physical space. I'll pass the lead to talk about the day 3.
So on Friday, day 3, we then shifted our focus to 2 interactive workshops focused on collaborating with justice impacted experts, 1 session moderated by me and a full day training facilitated by Canary Impact for justice impacted youth. However, each day during the summit, youth leaders were able to participate in training, but professional training and development, trainings that allowed them to strengthen and acquire new skills. And I would have the questions you can talk about the summit.
Thank you, Ramik. So the summit keeps on giving in the spirit of increased and amplified generosity. We've organized all of the sessions, including videos, slides, photos, in what we're calling the Content Hub. So this is free training for anybody who wants to go to this microsite and watch all of the sessions and so on. I'm happy to share with you, this took me completely by surprise. We did not expect that we would have thousands of views on this microsite, many emails. And besides the US, this Content Hub has reached 9 other countries. So it's really cool to see the application, right, of this initial investment. We will not navigate the microsite here, but you get a sense of what it is, and we'll invite you to explore that on your own. We have the link. Thank you, Trista, for sharing that. I think now we move to the video, but before we do so, I want to put a plug here for a reunion. Would you like to speak, Michelle, with your other hat?
Thank you. I think first I want to take also a moment to say Thank you to you, Jessa, for having this conversation, but also like put in what has been one of my dreams for the last decade, if I'm honest with all of you, ever since I joined the JJAC. And also to the JJAC for this opportunity, somebody that is also be able to be part of other state advisory groups across the country that's not commonly known to do. But to take a step back, I have always dreamed of for the JJAC to do some direct investment, not just in young people, because that's what we do 100%, but a lot of what I have seen on a personal, but as a professional level as well, is that a lot of the funding goes for direct service, which it is so needed. It is so needed, right? But a lot of the times we also need funding to be able to go beyond not just what we need right now, but how do we build our skills, our features, so we can become better, so we can enter this space in this field, or whatever field that is, right? And I'm saying that as a young person with lived expertise. This has been part of our strategic plan for years, but I believe this is the first time where I have actually seen it directly go through it. Again, thank you, Gisa, for trusting me as a leader. I changed hats. I building my own organization that really focuses on developing leadership for people that have been through the justice system and letting them think through what does it look like to think outside the box, and not just to think, but how does that move to action and systemic change for the greater good. So being able to do the full day was amazing. I'm happy to share that it was built, it was put into practice by everybody who was there was formerly incarcerated. So putting those lens was amazing. We were able to receive, we did a survey. We received 29% out of everybody that was there. And thank you, Eddie, because out of the last minute, I said, Eddie, you're here. I think you need to be and open up this day with me, because I think a lot of the times, going back to the conferences, we don't see the JJAC being present, but we know that the JJAC is out there doing their thing, invested. But seeing it, not to get the credit, but to be able to see it. I'm a visual person. I need to see it in order to believe it. So thank you, Eddie, for opening up with me as the chair. So I did want to share a little bit before I go on the reunion. The training that we developed and hosted as Canary, we focused on a couple of things. One of them was, how do we design this full day to be about storytelling, skill building partnerships, building trust with each other, community with one another. But most importantly, how do we put healing practices? Because we don't talk a lot about healing, which is why I love that we have a conference that focuses on healing and connecting with each other. And I'm happy to say that a lot of the takeaways that we heard back from the feedback that we asked young people to give us was they love. Even though there were sessions, people were presenting, we make sure that they were not just interactive, so people had the chance to talk to each other, but also that if you want to say something, you can say. You don't have to be the name and the agenda to give your 2 cents, your expertise, you want to share. And I think that was amazing, because I go to a bunch of conferences, and a lot of times we go and listen, but you need to engage in the conversation, to ask questions and to imagine more. How do we use our expertise, the skills that we have gained, whatever that is, and use them, not to just move the forward, but as a collective. Because this work is only going to be done if we do it together. And again, healing as a strategy, I think it took me 9 years. Officially this year, I have done a lot of setbacks and a lot of work on myself. And being vocal. That's why today I said, I don't know about this, but let me ask. So putting that there. And one of the things that I have learned throughout the years is that I love going to these spaces that create these amazing connections, but it's hard to maintain it when you're in different places, right? And a lot of what I was thinking of this, and something that we have talked about with the BCJS conference, like this can't just be one-time event and I'll see you next year. Especially for young people, that takes a skill to network, to follow up, to make the time and space to connect and figure out how to be important with other people. So we were having a debrief conversation with Gisa and the rest of the YJI team. And I was like, we need to figure out how do we do this. And we'll figure out about the money later, but one of these things is that we need to have a debrief. I know that Canary has to take in the lead to like connect with them on a monthly basis and share opportunities, what's happening in the field. But with the time and space, we figured it out. And later on this month, we're going to connect with all of the young people that are going to be there. And hopefully, and that is one of the questions that we're asking them, what does it look forward for us as a collective? So I'm really happy to hear that there's funding left to see how we can imagine how else that goes. But I just wanted to say that I'm so grateful that this opportunity has happened. It has taken a little bit of time, but like Commissioner Rosado said, the time is now to be with each other, community. These are tough times and we need one another. Well, thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to 1023.
Yes.
It's the reunion. Precious, Jason, I know you're both there and throughout the way, is there anything that you would like to share from your perspectives?
I mean, I'll just share that overall, the experience at the summit was amazing. The energy was there. I'm happy to say that I was able to bring along with me or, have some folks apply directly like from where I'm from, so from Buffalo. So it was nice to give that opportunity to those folks because I believe in exposure. And I truly believe that this summit changed a lot for them. So I'm happy about the reunion and to bring them back and just see what they've been up to. So I think it was amazing. You guys did 10 weeks. You guys did amazing. Thank you for having me be a part of that. It was great.
Awesome to have you. Jason?
Experience. It's not too often that New York can get together. So it was nice to see so many young faces in the room together. Especially like I said, even though we're so close, especially in New York City, we're close in terms of distance, but we really don't get together. So it's nice to meet and that's what I felt like was when I got out of it was that it was youth focused and essentially, and I felt like that really showed it.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for your support too throughout and there. So, picture speaks louder than words. We have a motion picture for you. And I just want to highlight that this funding also supported a contract with YouthFX. We created this video that we're bringing for you. So shout out to the youth-based crew at YouthFX that put this together. We wanted to bring popcorn. We didn't know if that was going to break a rule. So next time. Thank you. Okay.
Everybody here and the amount of power that is shared in this space to see how people feel valued and how they feel that their opinions have been heard is a pretty magical experience.
No one service sector probably has the answer, but it's when we come together and work together that we have a chance to make the most impact.
Have a communal meeting to really discuss what becomes our path forward, how justice is happening to communities, and how systems are playing a role in that, and its impact.
It's not often you can be around folks who want to listen, who want to make change. And
I'm not alone in the sense where everyone I talk to is so passionate of what they do. And seeing so much people just doing what they are passionate for and just fighting just for the goodness of their heart is really inspiring for me to keep moving forward.
Everyone has something unique, obviously, to bring to the table and to share, obviously coming from their own little kind of quote siloed worlds, but seeing that we really need to work together and that everyone has their expertise, but nobody can really do it alone. I think that this has kind of emphasized that.
There's so much more than what their current circumstance is. That is where we're going to see change.
You are now receiving a collect call from the Islewood United States Federal Penitentiary. To accept these charges, press 9. Bring.
We really enjoy working with different age groups and everything, and having mentors, mentees, some volunteers in the space. It means a lot that we're able to bring that kind of energy to these types of spaces.
10:48 p.m. I walk through my front door. I yell out for my dukes and my little dude, but they don't respond like they usually do. It's quiet in the crib. So I go look for my dukes and my little dude, and they not there. I look for my...
Bones spill out dressed in oversized lies because justice doesn't quite fit oppression, right? So they make alterations to the altercations that alter nations, and we're the ones who wear the weight of every casket on our shoulders.
These poets that were brought today, like, almost brought me to tears. Like, their words were like very moving, and yeah, I really want to highlight that.
On behalf of the Youth Justice Institute, I'd like to welcome you all to the 2025 Youth Justice Summit. Our main focus today is to kind of gather them together, give youth a voice, and make sure they're heard by the people who are actually currently making the change in society to help these youth.
Love is an act of justice, and so I offer this charge to the field. Let us not simply reform youth justice. Let us reimagine it as a community-building enterprise.
If we put those who are most affected in charge of the path forward, crises can bring out transformation. If we dare to reclaim our power, crises can bring out transformation. So let's meet this moment by daring. Let's dare to choose humility. We can begin by accepting that expertise takes different shapes. It comes from different sources. Let's meet this moment by daring to choose curiosity. We can begin by asking why, always, and seeking alternative explanations, other viewpoints, by being open-minded. Let's also dare to choose evidence and understand that data is only as powerful as the emotion it evokes and the actions it sparks. Let's dare to share. We can share resources, we can share knowledge, we can share power. This summit invites you, all of you, to dare to share a vision.
Hope begets hope. There is no such thing as a goal too small. When young people tell you what it is that they desire, we need to take it seriously.
Our attitudes about crime and punishment are complex. They often seem to veer far off course, taking on a life of their own. they can drift farther and farther away from the reality of what crime actually looks like and feels like.
If this is truly the youth justice system, then why are we still surrounded by adults?
Cumulative advantage, and this is the connection, which is access to resource and positive developmental experiences, builds resilience and offers a pathway to living our fullest potential.
Collaborating, it means co-creating with youth and not just consulting them. If we want to see the system change, we have to know that engaging their parents and their peers is really, really critical.
We cannot rule by fear. We have to have informed policies that are based on hope, that are based on change. The risk of experimentation, I think, really pays off, and be more focused that this could genuinely change lives.
We always have to see the potential of children going. So the idea that folks can walk away with understanding that this is still about developing and what is the next trajectory that we can actually create with youth. And so I'm excited there were so many different sets of folks here who had an opportunity to really understand that that's where we're going.
YFAC stands for Youth, Families, and Communities Towards Success. And that's really exactly what it aims to do. It aims to provide, as I say, research and data literacy support to organizations to help them make the most use of their data that they collect with the community within their programs and to serve that community. And we're very excited to be here today for the launch of the YFAC Center.
We are a data-rich but analysis-poor society. How do we make sure that data is not a burden, but it is providing us with a platform for, creating change?
Data is something that's powerful. Data tells you the truth. I feel like being in a center where data is something that's promised or something that is brought up is something that we need in our neighborhoods.
Through the data hub, we're able to figure out some of those primary risk factors, what's the underlying factors that exist, but also be able to engage and exchange. So when we have the partnership like this, we're going to be able to learn so much more and advance in the field and make New York a much better and safer place.
We know that prevention is where we need to be. That is where we need to invest, and we need to continue to work in that space. And we must accumulate the data, examine carefully so that we can strategically move the needle.
We have to build the next generation of evidence-based practice through our community-based organizations.
It's that we know that there's good information, but how are we leveraging that information? And in particularly, how do we help communities utilize information in such a way that it's about creating the conditions that matter most for them? And so we are super excited to kind of have this great panel that's going to feed us even more around this.
Our work is rooted in the belief that real change can happen when you combine evidence, narrative, and human connections. For us, transformation in youth justice means rethinking the very foundation of how we understand and support young people. And just as important, it means recognizing that young people and their families aren't just recipients of the services, they are essential partners in driving meaningful change.
So community-based participatory research and the work of the YFAC Center has the goal of interrupting that cycle by making the work of research and policy accessible to everyone, especially the people who have the most skin in the game, like the people in this room right now.
I would say, what makes the Baltimore City Youth Data Hub different is really our governance and the way that equity is at its center. I'm really excited to share a little bit about some of the stories that where community has really shared with us some of their lived experience. And so ultimately, the Baltimore City Youth Data Hub is really shifting who gets to define the questions. It's not just a story about linking systems. It's about shifting power.
Data is often vilified. There's different types of data and there's different uses and purposes of data as well. So for example, data you probably hear about a lot, quantitative, numbers, surveys, qualitative, interviews, focus groups. But it's not used for good if it's just never used, when people just collect data for the sake of collecting it. I believe in science for good and science for public change.
I think education is important, and the transformative power of education often goes unnoticed.
It's at the point in time when the economy is restrictive, money, it seems to be constrained, that's when you have to be bold. When you're educating young people, remember that the adult, whoever's in the classroom, is learning too.
Stories are nothing if you don't have facts to support them. We need to be ready and come in mind that there is going to be that other side that's going to share their story, but we need to be more strategic, thoughtful, and where we place those stories, how we share those stories.
I don't want to make it just about education, because I think the other part of this is what part of us is inspired by, moved by, transformed by the things that we learn. It's the transformational process that I think we're really endorsing. It's not simply reading a book. It's not simply listening to a lecture. That all of us have that within us. If appropriately challenged in a classroom, I think that's what has always inspired me. And it's why I'm always so anxious to be in a setting like this, where folks are not just saying it's a good idea. We're trying to figure out how to make it better.
So what I sort of like encourage the young folks that I come in contact with, that it's never too late, that if you really want to be serious about like where your life could go, learning something new every day is an opportunity to do that through education. And what I tell people is that, if you're not dead, you're not done. It's so important for folks to know that you can wake up every single day and learn something new.
How do we bring that dignity every day into the policies that we create, into the systems that we create, how we support our organizations with data?
Hope is about cognition. Hope is about imagination.
We really need to work together. We have to look at all of our children. We all have pain. We all experience joy. And this is a space where people get to speak on it out loud and feel seen and feel heard.
To me, poetry tells the story behind a statistic.
Some of the biggest impacts have been creating the space to allow youth to utilize their voice, because what we see is a lot of times youth are talked about and not talked with, especially in the space of justice.
Our youth and families are not an illness to be treated, they are muscle to be flexed.
What about our dreams? What if the cure for cancer is behind bars?
It's really critical that not only are communities asked questions, but they get their questions answered.
we were all brought to the summit by a sense of urgency. What's been really beautiful to observe and feel and watch is the love and the hope and the sense of possibility that has unfolded here. And I hope that anybody who has a chance to review the top 10 takeaways from the summit will see these feelings of hope, love, and possibility built into those 10 takeaways. And I hope that that will carry forward into action after the summit is over.
It's been a great summit. It felt like a party. It was great.
Invite them to the table. And not only invite them to the table, they need to lead the table.
Justice happens when you lead. Justice happens when you lead.
All right, we have so many thank yous, but you can see the thank yous on the video. It's on YouTube. You can share all of that, but we want to get the lights back on in the room and invite everybody to take a second and take a little bit of a stretch. Stand up if you need to, get blood flowing again. And we are back, and we're going to shift into a facilitated discussion. And so we can even get the lights in the front of the room. And we're going to highlight to everybody the handout that you have. Thank you. We're going to wait before. Now you're awake. Good morning, everybody. All right. Sorry. All right. So as you saw in the video, the summit was a space where we surfaced powerful values, we surfaced urgent priorities, and a shared vision for youth justice in New York State and beyond. And since then, we received information from people via email, via survey, in note cards that were written and left on the spaces throughout the course of the summit that allowed us to distill this list of emerging themes, these 10 takeaways about to help us reflect on where we can go next. And this came from all of the people who were in the room and afterwards. So these 10 ideas cut across systems, they cut across experiences, stories, and lived experience. And they're not mandates, they're gifts for us to consider, to reflect on. And they hold collective wisdom from the room for us to take forward. And we invite this group to think of them as a North Star in how work can be done in the space of youth justice moving forward. So we're going to ask pair up or get into small groups with your seatmate or people right near you. We have a couple of questions that we would like you to reflect on. You have the 10 takeaways in your folders, and they have a little bit more of a description under them rather than just the top 10. So we're going to ask you to take a look at that through which of these sparks something for you and your agency's work or you and your organization's work, and what's some small way that you can be incorporating that into and making action towards increasing that takeaway's impact in your work. So for example, at YJI, we are focusing a bit on priority number 8, which is addressing overlooked issues. We are very proud that we are supporting the New York State Governor's task force on missing women and girls who are BIPOC, which is a mouthful, but it's really exciting and important work, and we're very excited and proud to be working in that space. So without further ado, turn to your partners. What sparks something in you, and how can you be using these moving forward? We'll come back in about 2 minutes. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you read Juvenile? Kind of. I haven't seen like some of them from some titles. You can practice different types of so it's interesting to me because there's a lot of these sides. The thing I just started was fight towards I feel it was like that being and I launched that and programs off. Well, I still don't think that I know. And plan for their eyes. So I recommend so for them, I like but even though it's not very but I do he's very I know, but I think like that was one of my side that I would trust that.
How are we doing? One more minute? Yeah, one more minute, everybody? All right, 1 minute.
Actually, I'm to take them out of that other area. We did. Try to inspire them how to that's what and you don't build that one. It's gonna take a year. I just don't know where that fits. And I love maybe you're right. And then that's my so I'm
Okay, sorry to cut everyone's short.
Let's come on back, everybody. We know that that was not enough time for anything. Very. Back. I'm gonna ask us to come on back and let us continue the conversation. All right, let me.
Okay, just before we get started, by show of hands, how many people resonated with takeaway 1? Takeaway 2? 3? 4? 5? 6? 7? 8? 9? 10.
We had a lot of people who were saying number 4, so I just want to like elevate that verbally in the space, that it was hire and invest in young people, hire and invest in youth.
So at this moment, just invite 2 to 3 pairs to share their feedback about what's the point or takeaway that they resonated with. So anyone who wants to start this process of sharing right now, please feel free to share what were part of your discussion and how you felt about the statement.
I can. So we were talking about a few different things, but I was going with number, really interesting number. So the humanizing data and make data participatory. So I'm a direct service provider and a trainer and consultant. So when I was thinking about this, you know, we focus a lot on evidence-based treatment, and how, you know, there's obviously a lot of research and data around evidence-based treatment, but not all people understand that, including like even insurance companies or people who, you know, we need to pay for the evidence-based treatment. It almost becomes like a hype word, right? Or phrase like evidence. But we were talking more about how do we help families that we work with understand data. So sometimes I sit and listen to the YJI give all this information, which I'm always blown away by. Like, it's amazing to me, the stuff that you guys are able to help us understand in the way you put it. And then I think if we struggle to understand this, imagine how families feel or don't even know that this stuff exists. So it's very interesting to me how you guys were working on tying all that through at your conference. And it gave me a way to think about that with families. Because so many times families come in and we have to help them like demystify certain things. And that's very difficult because they come in with a lot of preconceived notions about the treatment or things like that. So this was very helpful to me to help remember, like, we got to share that information in a way people understand. Thank you.
You got to know your audience.
Yes. Yep.
Because you can have the same information, but you wouldn't share it the same way as you would with somebody who understands data, as opposed to a family member that you got to frame it in a way that they can visualize it. Because most of us are visual.
Yeah.
You know, and related to, well, how many children does that turn out to be?
Right.
You know, so you say, well, you know, that 8 out of 10 children, that makes it a little bit easier to understand when you're sharing data with the family member. Because then they can see, like, okay, there's 8 and 10.
Yes.
And I think that's important, right? Because something to be thought about in this context is accessibility, right? We can have statistics and give those statistics to communities or individuals, but is that really access to the information, to the data, right? Because people often look at data as something that's intimidating. So how do we increase the level of intimidation and encourage individuals to understand or even learn and begin to fathom that they can understand data? That's helpful. So, thank you, guys.
And why it matters.
Making it relevant to people to be able to use it. Yeah.
Anyone else would like to share on some of the discussion happening in your group about a takeaway that they resonate with?
Or how you're actionizing that. And so
I would like to say that.
Absolutely.
So I like to hire and invest in youth. Because it speaks volumes. You know, I'm a person that you put your money in the things that you believe in. And when you hire a youth that has lived experience of having been in the juvenile justice system, and someone takes a chance and says, I'm going to give you a job, that says they trust me. And that helps build self-confidence, right? And saying that they're investing in me, and it could change their trajectory, you know, change the direction that they're going in. And I say that as a mother of young men, who as children experience this and become discouraged because they couldn't get a job because of what they did, you know, their past or whatever, you know. So when you take the time with someone and says, look, I'm going to help and I'm going to share something if you don't mind. I used to sit on the IRB for OCFS, and it amazed me the kind of trainings that they were giving youth. I'm like, you're giving them this training, but this is not something that they may want to pursue when they leave. You know, you have people coming in, painting the walls, fixing the walls, and making repairs. Help them learn those skills, right? Because then you could get a job as a plumber, you know, going as a an intern, or, you know, someone who's observing someone do the work because you've done it when we were away. Painting, you know, give them different options instead of culinary and custodial work, because that limits the potential. And it's saying that you don't believe that I'm capable of more than that. But when we look at what the young people have done in those activities that they shouldn't have been doing, we can see how intelligent they are. Very creative, but to me, sometimes the opportunities that they're given are stifling, and it limits them and doesn't allow them to see what other opportunities and possibilities could be, right? So when you take the time to invest in hiring a youth, you're saying volumes. But not only are you saying volume, you're demonstrating that I believe in you, I know you got this, I'm here for you, and that you're gonna get paid for it too. We're not just gonna do you as cheap labor, right? Because money talks and everything else won't. So for me, you know, I believe in hiring young people. I believe in advocating for people who have a history to help them work through that, which sometimes prevent them from getting the opportunities that they really want. And so with that, I think this opens up a plethora of opportunities for young people who may be stuck in an environment and not knowing what other things are possible because they're not given those opportunities to go through and training.
Thank you. Like that, you know, I think when we were discussing that, as I was listening to you, Ophelia, I think number 8, no, number 9 and number 10 goes hand to hand with that specifically, right? I think a lot about my own self that I've been reflecting this year. And one of the things is that, you know, like, one, as we were talking about this, my first actual job happened, I got hired through Ophelia's organization. And then I have moved to different places.
And I'm very proud of her. Do you see? No, this is a perfect demonstration. No, not this. It shows a perfect demonstration of what can happen if somebody believes in you and gives you an opportunity. And I'm going to speak for myself too, as a child who they said had severe mental health challenges, would never amount to anything. They wrote me off. But I'm able to come back and give opportunities to people because someone gave me an opportunity.
And as I was saying, you know, and thank you for your presentation, because it reminded me of the science of hope, right? And a lot of us that go through the justice system, I think a lot about my days. I didn't think that I would ever go to college because none of my family members ever. I think my mom and my dad both only graduated from middle school. And when people would ask me 12 years ago, what do you want to be? I just never imagined that I could be anything else, right? And I remember that I met Hernan, who used to be a JJAC member, and similar experiences, similar trajectories, like, and I was like, oh, because of you, I can also be, right? And last year I graduated with a master's, and now like building my own org and providing those opportunities. And it carries a little bit of pressure, but it's beautiful to see that there's times where people promise it because of you. I can do this, right? And a lot of us that have been through the system, that not just been through it, but love, that are actually allies, create these opportunities, right? And I think believing and telling people, because a lot of the times I remember back in my days, a lot of people say, you just about, that term. And now just going and telling people, you know what, you got this, you can do this, I believe in you. Goes a long, long way. And it's the full circle that it goes into. Going back to the DCJS conference, I'm sorry, I forgot the name, commissioner from OCFS. Share her story.
Commissioner Damian, I was name.
Thank you. And I was like, I know I've been thinking about government and seen somebody that share a little bit of her lived expertise, and now how she's leading forward. It's not like I could do more. I could do more, right? So I just feel like even though they are different points, they intertwine with one another.
Absolutely. I just gonna add to, the previous point about, I think I had a committee with myself, I discussed with myself. Sport is important, and I think it's important to say, with the people in this room, that we, both in government and in the nonprofit sector, have to be more purposeful about this hiring of kids. I mean, last year we had an opportunity at DCJS to hire high school kids, and none of my divisions wanted to hire high school kids. And then I gave them the look. We had a bunch of them, but it takes that because, especially if you're a certain age, you're 15, 18, and you don't have an allowance, you don't have access. I thought this morning I came here, I had no cash, and thanks to Omar, who bought me coffee. And I always have my father's voice in my head. You shouldn't leave the house if you don't have $50, but it was a long time before I had $50. Like in those days, we had summer jobs, we had summer youth employment, we had programs, that you could take advantage. And today we have less of that. And so if we don't give them away, regardless of what household they're in, if we don't give them a way to be able to have money in their pocket, they're going to find other needs. Yeah. So we have to try to create those opportunities, fund programs, and fund, often we fund the program, but we don't fund the ability for the stipends. And we need to change that. We need to make stipends for kids, at a certain age, kind of a requirement, because it also allows them, they're learning this fiscal responsibility in school, but they have no fiscal to be responsible for. So it's not just about the money, but the money goes a long way to responsibility, to saying, okay, I'm gonna step out of whatever my family's business is. I'm gonna have a goal, and so I think I will move this to the top of the list, because if we figure out how to help kids, stand on their own 2 feet in a way, or at least for the stuff for money, if we figure out routes for them not to have to go work at Dunkin' Donuts, not that those are not great jobs, but that they could have different experiences. And I'll end by, you reminded me of this. When I was growing up, my grandfather had a bodega, so I thought I was going to be a bodeguero, because, that's what everybody in my family did. And then, but at some point, my grandfather said, no, that's not work for girls. And I was like, well, what do girls do then? So my only example was a teacher, right? So I would go around saying I was a teacher. And so my aunt took me to her hospital. She worked in the hospital on Sinai in like the accounting department. And I sat there with those key punch cards, and I was like, oh, this is work. It gave me a vision of what people did at work. That was a desk job, that wasn't the bodega. And, it just opened up my world, right? It just changed my view of people at work. And I think that's important. If people are in an office or in somewhere, and they see what people do for a living, to me, that's one of the most important things we can do for you. So please join me in that.
Yeah. I would love to share a program that I'm working on right now in Western New York. As a judge, there's only so much I can do. Some of these points I cannot participate in, but there's some I can. So I'm building a career exploration program. The power of the office is I can bring people to the table and make them spend money. So we're building a program that takes kids out of their environments, justice involved kids, into different places so that they can see and be inspired and have hope for a job in their future. We're working on that right now. I have a program that Precious speaks at, where we celebrate kids who have been through our system but have remained arrest-free and are doing well. And we tell stories, and we humanize those stories through people like Precious, who tell their stories and how they overcame their past. And we bring in the Buffalo Bills players to celebrate. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that something new for me. when I sentence youth, and I have to tell you, I do see a lot of homicide shootings and injured victims, so that it's a very serious time in the courtroom. I have always tried to say to kids, like, this is temporary, whatever I'm giving to you today, and you can rise above. But I realized recently that that's not a good time to tell them that, because they're holding their breath, waiting for the sentence, and then they're processing that. So recently I've started writing handwritten cards that talk to them about, I believe in you, that you're not your worst mistake. I want you to use this time to reflect on what you want, make a plan to do it, utilize the programs offered to you. And I've gotten some really good feedback from the youth, through their attorneys usually, that was a meaningful thing, because they can then take that card with them and process that later. So that's what I want to bring to you. Some of these just
So Jenny will come back to you. Yes. Oh, Reagan, yes.
So you actually are saying something I want to highlight, which is my favorite word is hope. Just so you know, I have a sweatshirt that says hope dealer, and it's always something I think about. But what you're doing, and this is what I was going to say, if we go with number one, is it doesn't matter what door these youth come to, whether it's court or probation or therapy or whoever, wherever. If we don't start instilling that hope from that moment, like we're not helpful. Because it doesn't matter what door they walk through. What matters is that that's our opportunity to really see these people in front of us as people who need, help and change. So hope is really important, and I so appreciate what you're saying, because that, like, coming from you, so someone who's having to hand down that sentence, but you're also showing that you're also supporting them in their journey. That's incredible. So any way we can all figure out how to do that would be great.
So then the whole, right? Serve with love and persistence.
Goes together.
Yes. That is the challenge that was said at the summit was love youth even when they are hard to love. I think I'm quoting somebody in this room. But it's an important thing, and it's something that resonates. And so thank you, Judge, and thank you, Jenny, for sharing that. I think that we may be running low on time.
So we'll start the transition to the next point, but just so we know whose ideas are seed, I hope everyone leaves here today ready to plant those seeds where you work. And in the spirit of planting those seeds, as Michelle mentioned, we look forward to the reunion with our young leaders coming up later on this month. And I will pass it to Carmen to speak more about this.
And if it's all right, we're going to ask for the front lights to come back down to the slides will be more visible. Carl, for you.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's a little dark for the notes. It's okay. Hope you memorize. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did want to start and just say thank you all for that discussion and that sharing of ideas. Being new to this group myself, hearing more, learning more is very much appreciated. And certainly I would say that for the YFACs, all of those 10 takeaways do resonate in ways when we think about what we're building and what we have to have top of mind as we're doing the work. Two areas in particular, as we think about YFACs that we have certainly embraced and keep close, are exactly the ones that you folks brought up around data, of course, that data storytelling, that qualitative data, that making meaning of the metrics and the measures we're collecting to make sure we understand what does it really mean, who are we really talking about, what's the nuance behind the data, that we're being fair, that we're centering equity, that would be critical. And the other was, I believe, number 6, around data being participatory. We need to ensure that youth, that families, that community all have a role in deciding what data are collected. What's the plan for, why are we collecting the data? What are we planning to do with it? What's the interpretation? How is it being used? And so the very people who are sharing the data are benefiting from what we're doing. So these things are critical. So I just wanted to share that this important work of the summit and the YFAX launch in particular is really helping to inform what is happening next. So, so on to the YFAX update. And we have some updates for you across 4 broad categories here. With respect to onboarding, so I joined in early June, and the summit where we launched the YFAX Center was just several weeks later. And again, I will say, thank you. Thanks, Alicia. She's the best. Again, I will say that it was a perfect opportunity for me, being so brand new, to learn from the generous sharing that everyone did. A little bit of energy was really incredible. So just to come back to a few key points that kind of stand out from those meetings, from the YFAX launch, that again will keep close and will help inform our work. There's 3 kind of these came out of presentations that we heard and that we discussed. One point I wanted to went back to was that we discussed the power of data to really foster conversation in the community, to spur change, perhaps even systemic change. And with that point, in many cases, these were research projects that were led by youth, by young people. And so we saw that it was what you saw me thinking back here was in the content hub, all of these presentations are available. So there's like depth of information in that. We, of course, learned about the ways that AI can inform our work, which is what we're all hearing about every day. But we learned about the ways that perhaps we can really embrace it for value added for what we're trying to do. Perhaps even bring it in ways that can help humanize. And again, I would invite you to go back and see that presentation. And then also, we saw a very successful citywide data hub that's really doing some close work with the community, with a focus on equity. And YFAX in particular can learn a lot about how they have put that work into place. So with respect to some foundational aspects of the early months, there's the creation of the logo. There's some university-based activities that we're doing that kind of serve, again, as they're mechanical, they're operational, but we've been engaged with our university institutional review board, the IRB, working out those mechanics of that system, data use agreements, data sharing agreements. These aren't always fun things, but they are things that when we start talking about data sharing and linking things together, we need to be well versed. We need to have those relationships. And so this is what that is going on in the background. That's very, very important. With respect to vision and forecasting, I can assure you that the vision for the YFAX is being translated into reality. That's what we really want to share with you today. And I think that, you know, again, this work with respect to planning, this means really sitting down, internal meetings among me and GISA, working with Dr. Fergus, working with ECJS, as well as we get further down the line with our plans, but translating that vision into strategic plans and timelines and how will we play that out. Some of the things that we're looking at there involve, you know, what are the information sharing platforms that we'll use? We'll be developing a microsite. What are the other ways that we'll be doing outreach? Also, what were the other things that I wanted to point to? I'm sorry. Okay, no, I'm just thinking about another section. So, yes, planning for that work, and of course, planning for work with the transformative youth justice hubs that we heard a little bit about. And we know that once those folks come on board, that we'll be aligning with them. We're also planning some work with the mini grantees so that we can activate YFAX now and get that work started. So with respect to the hubs and the mini grantees, I could share a few specifics there. On the hubs, opportunity of participating in this forum. So we at YJR were able to read some of those applications. Gave us a great view into the work that's being planned. We don't know who will be selected, but we could see kind of the broader landscape of what folks are doing to help us plan. And as you know, in that RFA for the hubs, the YFAX support, along with TCJS, is woven in at every stage of what the hubs are going to do. Their planning phase, their implementation phase, and their evaluation phase and reporting. of course, woven through all of that is always sustainability. So that's always top of mind right from day one. So we, in our planning phases and in our preparation behind the scenes, we're starting to amass the tools and other exemplars that we can put together and what's the right word? Adopt for YVACs. So look at the lay of the land. Look at tools such as action plan templates, evaluation planning guides, logic models. These are all things that are going to play out in these planning phases and implementation phases early on. So we are amassing a collection. We're doing some research around what's out there, and we're working to make them ours behind the scenes so that we can then share those with folks when we're ready to go forward. So that's kind of behind the scenes on the hubs as we get going. And as Giza pointed to earlier, reading those applications just made it all the more real for us. The RFA was, it could be a lot of things, right? How would that be put in practice? And when we read the applications, we were able to see what some of these projects can really look like. So, so that was great. With respect to the mini grantees, there's something that we're working on presently. And as Dr. Berg has pointed to, you know, we want to expand, we want to, and as others have noted too, what are we doing for the hubs? Can we provide support and technical assistance? So the step that we're on right now is we are planning a data capacity survey with the mini grantees. And this is something that we hope will allow us to get kind of the landscape or lay of the land around the data capacity and needs of this kind of sample group. And it will help us lay the foundation for the broader work of YVACs. And it will also help us tailor some training and technical assistance events that the mini grantees may have an opportunity for, as well as the hubs going forward. And then data drives change. As you know, we have a mobile data unit that we are just getting ready for. We've started some conversations with our university experts on what's next there. And we can hear. Okay, data drives change. So this is our, as I say, mobile data unit. This is some of the YJI team. And the most exciting news I can share is that the van is on site. Hardware is arriving to campus. It will be equipped with state-of-the-art technology, big screens, everything we need to drive this van into a neighborhood, into a community, put up the awning. I'm picturing an awning, setting up chairs and really working with folks in the neighborhood. So that's what we're working on. We're also designing the wrap for the van so that it will look prettier than the white van here, the logo and all of the branding on that. And then I could share that there are some ongoing conversations with some university experts on AI and some other potential partners on what will these offerings be for the van and what can they bring to the table for us. And I just wanted to share a couple of ideas that are on our minds with respect to community pop-up trainings, you know, are one potential avenue. Conducting a data walk in the community, this van will allow us to actually push in and share the space and do that with folks. And then we're thinking community accessible community needs surveys, maybe with some quick response data that we can share back. So these are just some early ideas that are in the works, but we are very excited about the van. We can't wait to show you in its next phase when it's dressed up. Yes.
I have a question. Is there an opportunity where Michelle's talking about nonprofits to train nonprofits on data collections? Is that part of that? Giza's shaking her head, yes.
Yes. Do you want to like go through the trainings? We save them for December.
We save them, but you reminded me of something very important that I forgot to share. The two current things that are in the works presently, there's the survey of the mini grantees, which will allow us to then tailor some training. Meanwhile, we are in conversations with a consultant to have some workshops scheduled. This is coming soon. We're just hammering out those details. And it is around data literacy. It's around data visualization and data use. And it points back precisely to this notion of there's a lot of information, there's data. You might even have some charts and graphs, but unless it is accessible, unless it is clear, unless it's relevant, all of those things. So this is exactly dovetails with the first set of workshops that we are thinking about doing. So that's one example of the kinds of trainings. And I think Giza if you wanted to share any other, or we'll wait.
And that's it. And we are,
You don't want to yeah.
yes.
Yes.
We're hoping that the hubs will open the gates and the portal, serve as a portal to the community organizations, but we're also not waiting. We're getting the foundation started and making these things.
I think a lot of nonprofits, especially smaller ones, obviously they're doing a lot of good work, but they don't know how to put the data.
Yes.
Show us the data.
Yes.
But also I think they may collect information and then they don't do anything. But
Yes, exactly. These are exactly the kinds of things and workshops that we want to. I will admit, you're reminding me of something else that I really wanted to say, which is in the vision, there is the work with the hubs. There is the work with building guarantees. There is planning for the broader landscape of statewide support. You know, so everything we're developing, though it might be first with this group who is available or ready, it all comes into RIFACs and can be shared back out, can be used. So it's for the state. And so when I talked about developing a microsite, you know, and having these information sharing platforms, that's what it's all about, that we're making that available. So we're hoping to build capacity beyond these sites and state.
We're getting them, so.
Okay.
We're getting them. And so, everybody got mystery hands delivered to you. Carla was sharing, if we would pass the floor to Libby for a new YDI signature.
So just to close out in community and the interest of youth justice as a collective, this chant has actually become our signature. Everyone loves it, enjoys it, and these hands have become staple items in some households.
I heard.
So I'm just gonna say justice happens, and I want you guys to kind of follow after me and lead after me when you lead, right? Because it's important to allow youth to lead, especially in the space of justice. We can give a quick trial run. Justice happens
When you lead.
All right, and then we'll just do this 2 times and close out collective as a community. All right. Justice happens
When you lead.
Justice happens
When you lead.
One more time. All right. Justice happens
When you lead. Both films. Yes, there for you to take. Because the last times I have always been a little. I know. Okay. So I'm gonna just switch over for Emily real quick. But I did just want to share, just because the conversation around capacity building has been coming up a lot here, and that you all maybe not necessarily don't know some of the other initiatives that we have going on within the Office of Youth Justice or at DCJS. And one of our major initiatives is an initiative called Project Rise, which is respond, invest, sustain, and empower communities impacted by violence. And a big component of that is capacity building. And so we are currently working on an RFP that will go out to really invest in capacity building for CBOs and grassroots organizations across the state. So any CBO or grassroots organization will be able to access that. And there'll be various topics around leadership development, doing business with the state. I'm missing a bunch of others, but there is a huge list of capacity building support that we are looking to support for CBOs and grassroots organizations across the state. So just wanted to relate that to that you had. Please, I'm gonna bring Emily's presentation up. I'm gonna get out of the way.
That, so our last item, we typically in our, I want to say September, October meetings, we usually have our data update, right? And so this time, we're actually going to focus in on the data dashboard, right? That Emily is going to walk us through. And the presentations are now packed as well.
You're not going to turn off the lights, right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, I have to be, I'll be also sharing a website. So, and then when I do that, just so I have to unshare,
I can just pop over.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You force me to sit down.
I don't have to. Guess what?
They do want me to turn the lights down, so.
Okay, it's okay.
Great, thanks, everyone. It's great to be with you all. Again, I think people know me by now. I'm Emily DiTilio. I'm from the Office of Justice Research and Performance at DCJS. And I'm here today to share with you all some new youth justice system data dashboards that we've produced. So, and I'm gonna share my screen and give you guys a demonstration of the website. But just before we do that, let's try to click here. Sorry, clicker. Any ideas? All right, let's try. Let's try this. Okay. So we've developed two new youth justice data dashboards in my office. One is the new youth justice indicator dashboard, and that one is brand spanking new. We released it at the beginning of the summer. We've done some presentations to show several stakeholder groups. We also have a dashboard that's focused on racial and ethnic disparities in the juvenile justice system. This one's been around for maybe about a year and a half now, but I don't think we've ever demonstrated it for this group. So this is a good opportunity. Just some overarching goals of our data dashboards. We have a lot in OGRP. You know, we used to be it was kind of archaic at one point, and we had a lot of Excel spreadsheets out there on the website. But we've had some overarching goals. We've been able to move a lot of our data to a dashboard tool. So, and we always have different, we actually have some overarching goals with those dashboards. And one of those is to just be able to increase the amount of detail that we're providing and the amount of information that we're providing. So one example is allowing people to drill down into certain populations of age, race, and sex, right? And be able to drill down more into the data. Another example is to be able to look over time so that we're able to see trends. We also want to provide the data in multiple formats so that we're hitting many different audiences. We, in my office, we probably get we used to get between 300 and 400 requests for data a year, and we would run these kind of customized, one-off type situations. And we noticed that people request information in all different, people like a table, some people like a visual, some people want a data set. So we're trying to kind of hit all of those areas so we can reach a wider audience. We want to be able to support training in the field, especially with probation offices. We have a lot of probation data. So working with our Office of Probation and Correctional Alternatives to just let them know what's available. And this is your data. This is what it looks like. Tristan and I have talked about this before, trying to, and I'm sure with the YJI, making sure people know that this type of information is available to support funding requests. So, for example, a community-based organization that's writing a grant application wants to strengthen their grant application and be able to use data. We're hoping that this type of information that I'm going to show you is going to support that. Also, this one, which is very important to me, about technology, using technology just to increase efficiency so that we can do more. We obviously can't just hire, right? We have to be able to do more with what we have. So using technology to do that. And then we have presented these dashboards at several places so far. We did a presentation, a webinar for probation departments. We did a webinar for OIJ funded partners. We presented at the Public Safety Symposium, and we also presented the dashboards at the Youth Justice Conference. So just trying to get the word out there.
Emily, before you drill down, the youth justice indicators are family court only, correct? Doesn't include youth court.
It does not include youth court, but it's probation and family court and probation supervision cases. So we are working on a youth part dashboard that's kind of coming up. So something that's going to be able to fold that piece in.
Thank you.
So just a quick recap here of the juvenile system. I know you guys probably can't see this very well, but so the top part there is the dark blue boxes is the youth part of the system. So that's the criminal part of the system, where with raise the age, 16 and 17-year-olds and juvenile offenders, their cases, 16 and 17-year-olds arrested on felonies, and juvenile offenders start in the youth part of criminal court. And then most of those cases are removed to the probation or family court process. And that is, this is what these dashboards focus on, which is within this green box here. So, and just to do a little recap on what that system looks like, you remove to, you're either arrested, and you go straight to probation, or you're removed from the youth part, you go to probation. Your case could be adjusted, which means that it's just totally diverted from the system altogether. That's a good thing. The case may end up in a family court petition. And if there's a family court petition, there's either a finding, a juvenile delinquency finding, that could result in the child being sent to placement, probation, or conditional discharge, or there's no JD finding. So, these are kind of the areas that we're trying to provide, that where the dashboard focuses on. So with that, I'm going to switch to the internet here, which is going to help me. Let's see. If we share I think we just need to share whatever your. Oh, thanks. So nice of you. Yeah, just website. I think that's it. That's all. Okay. And it should switch over to. Share Google Chrome. It's not switching from the, maybe we just need to close the PowerPoint. You're sharing Google Chrome. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now everyone's. All right, thank you, everyone. So just want to give, this is our DCJS statistics page. If you haven't been here before, there's a lot of resources here. We just to break it up, we put the data into sections. This first one is about reported crime. Then we have the adult justice system, and then the youth justice system. So the first dashboard that I'm going to be sharing is the youth indicators dashboard. And so people can go to this youth system section, and you see these three visual thumbnails here where we have information on probation, family court petitions, and then the youth probation supervision cases. So I'll just click here. This up. So we just have a landing page here where we talk about the probation intakes, and the first, and like I said, we see some visuals. We're trying to hit multiple audiences. So if we just click here, so this is a county, what we call our annual profile. So looking at juvenile JD probation intakes and what happened in a certain year. So users can see, they can select what year they want to look at. We have the data going back to 2019. They can look at the data by region. We have New York City, non-New York City, and they can look at the data by county. And it'll tell you how many intakes are open, how many intakes are closed. I'll select a county here. I'm going to choose Albany, that's where I live. And so the data is now populated with just Albany County data for 2024. And here the practitioners, people who are using this, can see by race and ethnicity, what do those intakes look like? So what percentage of, let's see here. So looking at felony and misdemeanor, the dark blue portion over here are felonies, the lighter blue portion are misdemeanors. And what does that look like by race? So for Black, Hispanic, white, other youth, what does that breakdown look like? We also have the data by sex, so looking by male, female, for felonies and misdemeanors, and then also the outcomes. So in probation, an indicator that people care a lot about is adjustment, and we want those adjustment rates to be high. And so just being able to look at what adjustment rates look like by different race and ethnic categories and total. So here in Albany, we have about 57% of the cases in 2024 were adjusted. 29% were referred to petition immediately, and then we have the 14% they attempted to adjust the case, but they could not. So this is definitely, I would say, useful for probation departments, also useful for just kind of anyone who wants to know, in the county, like how many kids are coming into the youth justice system in my county, right? And this could definitely be community-based organizations. For example, the state data on arrests of youth is not great. We like to think of probation as one of the best indicators we have of how many youth are actually entering into the system. Not necessarily like they were arrested and they were brought home to their parents, right? It's not going to capture that kind of thing, but it captures system-involved youth. So this is the county profile. Again, you can select whatever county you want. And it'll give you just kind of that bird's eye view for whatever year. And you can we have a nice download PDF here, and it pops up into a nice PDF document. You can walk around with it, give it to people who would be interested. The next piece I wanted to show is JD is our trends. So the 5-year trends. And so this is going to give users a view of what's been happening at probation over the last 5 years. And so just looking here at what people can do, you can look by region, you can select county, you can look at this by total or by different race and ethnicity groups, you can look by sex, you can look by age group. With the age groups, we like to look at the 16 and 17-year-olds and the 12 to 15-year-olds separately. That seems very important to the field. And then we have the percentage of cases that were successfully adjusted. So right now I'm just looking at everything. You can see in New York, though, this is New York State, which is, there's, a lot of nuance here, but, the adjustment rate has decreased. It was about 40% 5 years ago. Now it's down to 33%. In Albany County, again, where I live, about 49% were successfully adjusted in 2020. That's jumped around a little bit, but generally they've seen an increase in their adjustment rate. So people are, they want to take a metric and say, okay, this is the metric that we care about. We want to know what our adjustment looks like. We want to increase adjustment. We want to dive into the factors like within our department that could increase adjustment. This is a quick way to see it kind of for anyone. And then they may be interested in looking at counties around them. So, what does Albany look like compared to, I'll just pick one, Columbia County, which is just south of us. And so you see how their adjustment rates went down quite a lot. But it'll just give you a sense of, what does it look like in the last 5 years. We also have these trend graphs, so we can look at the number of intakes open by felony and misdemeanor, and then how many are closed each year. And you can also just select. So if there's someone that's interested in just looking at girls, they can look at just females and what that looks like. You can see in Albany the number of probation intakes of females has increased over the last 5 years. These are small numbers, but these are still people. And, we went from 72 to 123. So, and you can drill down to different race and ethnic categories as well as the age groups. So, for probation departments, knowing how many misdemeanor 16 and 17-year-olds are coming in, like that's something of interest to them, just to raise the age. And you can see with Albany, I'm still in Albany. They're looking at between, let's say, 25 to 52, 16 and 17-year-old youth coming in on a misdemeanor. So it also gives people the opportunity to provide context around what's happening in their system. You know, these are the actual numbers of what's happening. And I know before Raise the Age, there was a lot of talk about how the family court and probation systems were going to be, you know, just inundated with so many cases. And so here are the actual numbers, and you can speak to that, you know, what that looks like. So this is our the intakes. I will just show you guys, every page has a data notes because we know no one reads the data notes, but we always have to have data notes with anything that we post publicly. And then we also have a table function. So if someone is just, you know, there's people that just want data tables, they can, again, I'll select Broom, the data table will pop up. You can download that into an Excel, and it's a tool. And they can, maybe they don't want the visual, maybe they just want the table. So we have those options as well. We have an intakes open table, and then we also have an intakes closed table. So when the case is closed, that's when we're able to say, okay, what was the outcome of that case? How many were diverted? How many were referred to petition and whatnot? And so being able to look at those outcomes, by race and ethnicity. So that is the probation piece. I'm not going to do the full spiel with the family court petitions and the youth supervision. They all have a very similar look and feel. They just show different data because it's from a totally different system, right? These are from the probations from probation departments. Family court is from the family court data system. So, but it is the same look and feel, looking at in terms of how many are being filed, what are the dispositions of those? So how many kids are getting placement at family court? How many have probation, conditional discharge, ACD, and so on. And being able to look at that by sex and by race and by age group, again, we thought was important. So the other dashboard I wanted to show you all was our racial and ethnic disparities in the juvenile justice system dashboard. And like I said, this one we have had around, I think probably like a year and a half now. And we developed it, it was for a couple reasons. One was that we were making, we were using like Excel and like just putting a lot of effort and sweat into building visuals manually. And we're like, this is a perfect dashboard project. You know, Trista liked these what we call our disproportionality bar charts. And so this is a perfect project for a dashboard. So I'll just tell you a little bit about what the dashboard shows. So this is, and I think with this group, I've presented and shown some of our disproportionality bars that what we are doing here is we're looking at the makeup of the youth population, the general population. So how many white, Black, Hispanic, other youth, what does it look like by race, ethnicity, and then looking at that within the justice system. So what's the breakdown of youth in the justice system? And you can see that disproportionality between the general population. So here, you know, let's see if I can get that. Okay. Let's see. No, you can't really see that, can you? A little blurry. Let's see.
So I have a question.
Sure.
When you have the genders, are they all comprised together or are they broken down?
Yeah, so you can, the gender we have is what's collected by, like for this example, the probation department, which is gender or sex really assigned at birth. And then we can look by male, female, and then there is another category that they can select. And that's the information that we're getting right now from probation. So you can look at the data by sex.
The probation departments will gather sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression information, but that is very specific information that's not in these
it's not in these, it's still in an implementation phase. I would say that the collection of that information, and that information is not, it's not publicly available, but I think there's efforts made to help probations be able to collect that information. So this here, if we look here, the blue bars, the blue portion of the bars are Black youth, the orange part Hispanic, the green, that light blue is other. And you can see, just looking at the youth population, the general youth population, you have Black youth in the state, 16% of the state, but they make up 46% of intakes open, 51% of intakes referred to petition. They make up 48% of petition held in family court, and so on. So being able to look at each of those points and say, okay, what is it, who are the children that are actually here walking through these doors and what do they look like? And you can select a county. So I will select again Albany because it's first. Let's see. Okay, fine. Okay. And the data, I know you can't see, but it was just adjusted for Albany. So you can see in Albany County, we have 60% of the youth are white, but they only make up, white youth are only 22% of the intakes open, 18% of intakes referred, and so on. So any county can go, and we have the data going back how many years? To 2019. So, theoretically, you could go and print out this prints. You can print this into a PDF, and you can look. 2019 to 2024. This is how what it's looked like in my county, and this is how that disproportionality has changed. And we have a lot of policies that when they're implemented or they're passed by the legislature, they're designed in part of, they want to, the intent is to reduce racial disparities. And so this is just a way for people to kind of see what disparities look like in their counties. And there's a lot of ways to do that and to measure that. This is just one of them. So I think that's all I have. I will go, I've told people this, I will go and talk to anyone about the dashboards, the availability of the dashboards, any probation department, any community-based organization. We did every semester, I do a data presentation for RIT and share dashboard information there. And so if, I would be open to sharing with groups, like which is yours. Okay. And if there's any questions.
Every video.
Oh. Yeah. So yeah, and if there's any questions, let me know. We have all the dashboards always have a, let's see. I don't think this one does, but the other dashboard, you can email and there'll be staff on the end of that, the other end of that email, and so that you can kind of talk to a person about what you're seeing and whatnot. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Giving you a warning, I'm turning white.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily, for that data update, because I think in terms of the dashboard, for me, what I was recognizing is the be able to see these points of outcome, right? And in relation to the Wi-Fi conversation, I think there's such a great synergy in terms of now having all of these different formats in which we're going to have continue to develop data literacy across the space to really understand how do we, what's happening, and then how do we also understand how we put that. So thank you for that presentation. The data dashboards. Any last thoughts before we adjourn? Folks want to put on the table. We're ending a little bit early, which is because I gotta catch a flight. I don't like the drive fast.
Yeah, you went to a warm weather?
Yes, but it's work. Just as a quick update, we have our next meeting is December 10th. is in Albany. And as I alluded to earlier, definitely we're going to be seeking many grantees to present. I think it's an opportunity for us to understand what's the nature of effect in terms of this, really, taking a stab at this opportunity with new potential partners and to really learn from them how we can do better in the next round. So anticipate that there will be presentations at that meeting. And if there aren't any other comments, I'm not going to ask for a motion because so any other last thoughts, comments?
Just wanted to say thank you about the data specifically. I think I have always seen it as a foreign language to me, and being able to have somebody to break it down and tell you 1+1=2. That's what I was gonna say for the Y faction. I think it would be awesome to have sessions for community members to know what's going on, to understand it. But thank you so much for that. I remember I used, I think it was you, Trista, that shared with me the old website, and I had to put it together to understand the presentations in school. This is so beautiful.
And I will say that the staff is really good. We travel the state, so we have these regional ones where Joe put together this deprivation, and then to give this data back to the community and say, I think the word deprivation is important because there are, communities that were deprived of opportunities and resources, and we like to arm them with the data so that they can go and do, kind of their work also with the local, even the elected. So we're happy, we usually are happy to pull together the regional piece if you're presenting to a certain group, because it's important, I think, that we teach people how to use the data. The data is not just to read and say that's how messed up things are. To fix them. And actually, there's some communities where when we go in there and we present, we give them bragging points that they don't even aware of. Right? So it's good to let them know what they're doing compared to the other companies and stuff. So I love that we have this kind of usable data. And if you take Gisa to lunch, she'll give you some fancy with tables and stuff, so that it's not just. I hate those bars. I told you, this part I never understand. We want to make it so that people understand. Yeah.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in December. Enjoy the next several months.
Yes. Get to the election.
I know. Yes.